Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are doing well. Thank you so much for supporting my channel by clicking on today's video. I hope you guys enjoy. So I wanted to go ahead and do a underrated, overrated type style video. I did get this video inspiration from Kelly Gooch. She's one of my favorite YouTubers. I love her content. I love how frequently she uploads because she gives me something to do every single day. But she has been doing these underrated, overrated videos pretty regularly on her channel, especially recently. She did start off this series by doing eyeshadow palettes, and that's what I want to do in today's video. So I don't know if mine's going to be exactly like hers. Mine is going to be sometimes formula specific and sometimes brand specific or sometimes palette specific. So I will try to let you guys know when, that is occurring and when it's not and everything. So let's go ahead and get started. So I did want to go ahead and start off by talking about the underrated palettes. So these are palettes in my collection that I really feel don't get a lot of love here on YouTube, but I really think that they deserve more because I think they're great. I think they're versatile. I think they have good formula, etc., etc. So the first palettes that I wanted to talk about are these 5 pans from Dose of Colors. So I do own 4 of them. I just have 3 with me here today, but these are just such versatile palettes. They are all matte shades. Let me go ahead and show you what this one looks like. So this is Marvelous Mauves, and they are all matte shades, but I love these palettes, especially because they are all matte, because I feel like they're great companion palettes. So if I'm wanting to maybe play with my Super Shock shadows or my Stila Glitter and Glows, I can basically create my base shades, in my crease, in my outer corner and everything with these palettes. And then I can go in with that, Super Shock shadow or Glitter and Glow on the lid. And I really like doing that because it's helping me utilize other things in my collection that I may not really reach for as often. I really enjoy these palettes because they kind of push me to utilize things in my collection. So you saw what the Marvelous Mauves look like. This is the Blushing Berries. This is probably the one that I use the least, but I am excited to start playing with this one some more, especially during the fall and winter months. I also have the Pretty Cool palette. This one is actually my favorite, which I think is kind of funny because it looks super boring whenever you just look at it, but I really enjoy this one. It just really creates beautiful, just effortless looks. It looks like you tried really, really hard when all you did was just go in with an all matte palette and just throw it into your crease. So I really do enjoy this one and this formula overall, and I think it's very underrated. The next brand, and this is a brand overall I think is underrated, is Profusion. So this palette I have is the Wanderlust palette, and this is what it looks like. I have spoken about Profusion on my channel many, many times, so this is not the first time that you've heard me talking about this, but this palette just has beautiful jewel tones, perfect for fall and winter. Profusion is getting a little bit more attention here on YouTube, so that definitely is a good thing, but I feel like this palette especially just does not get enough love. I do understand that a lot of their newer palettes do have those pressed glitters. I know that that's not a favorite formula for a lot of people, so it makes sense that those aren't really spoken about, but this one has just beautiful shimmer shades in it, has no pressed glitters, so I feel like this one should be spoken about. I know that they also have like their tin pan palettes, and those, I've heard really great things about. They're $5. They have different color stories. Their brushes are also really, really great. So I believe that they are available in most Walmarts, if not all of them. So definitely check them out. I really do recommend them. I believe this palette was only like $10 and you get so many shades in here. So I really do think that this eyeshadow, formula is underrated, but the brand also is underrated. So I did want to talk about another brand, and this is BH Cosmetics. So I do own 2 palettes from them, and I do own some face palettes from them as well, but I wanted to focus on eyeshadow palettes. So the first one I have here, I believe is no longer available, but some of you may own this. but I've also found it at TJ Maxx and Marshalls, so you might be able to find it there. But this is the Royal Affair palette, and this one has such a beautiful, beautiful color story. I think it has such beautiful like jewel tones and just fall colors. I think the name Royal Affair is very fitting for this palette because I do think that these shades are just very like regal looking. So beautiful formula in this one as well as color story. I also have the Aurora Lights palette, and this actually features their baked eyeshadow formula, and that is one that seriously cannot be beat. Look at these gorgeous shades. They're so beautiful. I absolutely love using this palette in combination with these like Dose of Colors palettes because I'm utilizing the mattes from those Dose of Color palettes and then popping one of these on the lids, and they create such a beautiful eyeshadow look. So this one I believe is still available both on Ulta's website as well as BH Cosmetics website. So this one is definitely underrated. If you are a shimmer shade lover, if you're someone who just really, really loves the pop on the lids, I would really recommend this one. I know it's all shimmer, but I promise you, you can incorporate it into different looks. So I really do think that this is underrated. So moving on to overrated. So I have two to talk about, and these I definitely don't want to rub anybody the wrong way, but these are more like, I like the brand. I have no issues with the formula, but it's just, I feel like their palettes are overrated. Like everybody talks about them. So many people have multiple of them in their collection, and they do ranking videos with them, and they just talk so highly about them. And I am speaking about the Juvia's Place eyeshadow palettes. So again, nothing wrong with the formula. There's nothing wrong with the brand. I love everything about them. But to me, it's more like the color stories. They're a little bit overwhelming for me. And whenever I look, like for instance, this is the Magic Mini. Whenever I look at this color story, it's a bit overwhelming. I don't know which direction to go in. I don't know if I can create a complete look with this palette alone. And I feel like it kind of keeps me from using the palette. It's such a beautiful color story though. Like I love all of the shades in here. I love especially the shimmer shades. Kelly Gooch is actually the person that I bought this because of her, because she always talks about the Magic Mini palette, constantly on her channel. So it's nothing wrong with the formula. I just feel like they're a little bit overrated because so many people just rave about them over and over and over again. But I feel like for an average person, like, what are they going to do with this? Do you know what I mean? So this is just one example. I also have the Tribe palette by Juvia's, and this one does follow a little bit of a more like monochromatic theme with the greens. But again, if someone who is not really used to doing makeup or they're beginners, they're going to look at this and they're going to like run away, because it's like, what are they going to do with this? Now, it creates stunning looks. I've used this before. But sometimes you can still look at it and be a little bit overwhelmed. So that's kind of like what I'm talking about when I'm saying Juvia's Place being overrated. This just like their eyeshadow palettes. I also have the Nubian 3 Coral palette. This one is definitely the most cohesive and neutral of all of them. So I can definitely see this one being a little bit more beginner friendly. It's a little bit easier for you to come up with a look with this palette because it's a little bit more cohesive. But overall, I just feel like they're a little bit overrated because everybody loves them and everybody talks about them. But I don't think they're fully understanding that sometimes that can be a little bit overwhelming and discouraging for people who maybe don't know how to apply eyeshadow, or they're just dipping their toes into the makeup world. So anyways, the next palette, this is specifically palette, okay? I love the brand. They provide really great, quality products for such an affordable price. And this palette, again, I love the brand. It's just this palette is overrated. And this is the e.l.f. Retro Paradise palette. So I feel bad talking about this because I've talked about in my previous videos how I'm excited to have this in my collection, how I kept looking for it at Target and I finally found it. And when I did, I grabbed it because I don't regret having any of these palettes in my collection. I want to make that very clear. I tend to I tend to go through my collection regularly and declutter what I no longer want, or I try to sell them like on Facebook Marketplace, etc. So I am not saying that I, don't like these palettes or that I don't want them in my collection, but this is just overrated in my opinion. So many people gave this like stellar reviews, and I have to be honest with you. There are problems with this palette, and I don't think people like come across and tell you that. I haven't watched like tons of reviews, but the ones I have listened to, I feel like they're a little bit disingenuine. There are issues with this palette. The shade Fortuna it's a dud. Like it takes forever to build up on the lid. I use my finger, so you can definitely believe that I've tried to make it, come with its, most opacity. I usually always use my finger whenever I'm applying a shimmer shade because I know that that gives me the most impact. And there's just, other shades in here that are just kind of duds in my opinion. Like Sea Salt is a little bit chunky. And again, I don't dislike this palette. I just feel like it's a little bit overrated. I feel like a lot of people just kept raving about it and raving about it whenever in reality, there are some issues with the formula in this palette. So I just wanted to kind of make that clear for you guys. I don't regret having it in my collection. I think it's super stunning. But just know that there are some inconsistencies when it comes to this palette. So now I'm getting into palettes that I think deserve the attention that they get. So it's the rightfully so category. I want to kick it off by talking about Sydney Grace. Now, the eyeshadow palette that I own from Sydney Grace is the Enduring Love palette. This is the light version. Something that I think is really great about Sydney Grace is she creates palettes for light and deep skin tones. Now she doesn't do it for all of them, but she does do it for, she did do it with this one and then also another neutral palette that she came out with. And I think it's a great idea because you're giving, deeper skin tones a better transition that works for them, crease shade that works for them, etc., etc. This eyeshadow formula is no joke. It's so good. These metallics are so foiled on the lids. I actually had someone, I don't get a lot of comments because obviously I'm still a smaller channel, but I actually got a comment asking like what eyeshadow I was wearing because it just looked foiled. And this is the palette I was wearing. I remember specifically. And it's true. These foils just really, really show up so opaque and so just beautiful on the lids. They really catch the light in a great way, but also her matte formula is really good. So they are expensive, but I know that they're an indie brand, so they might have things that they stand for, ethics, they might be ethical and things like that. So maybe the price is good, for what they stand for. But I really do think that the Sydney Grace formula is worth the hype. So another brand that I definitely think, falls into that rightfully so category is Natasha Denona. So Natasha Denona is very expensive. She does have palettes in the $129 range. She has palettes in the $200 range. So she is no joke when it comes to her prices. But I will say that if you are wanting to save up, or if you're wanting to ask for, if you are wanting this as a gift, if you're just, you have the money and you just want to splurge, I think that you will enjoy the palettes. I think that you will be happy with your purchase. And that's kind of what I'm trying to say, but she has something very special when it comes to her eyeshadow formula. So the palette that I just brought with me is the bronze palette. This is one of her newest releases. She did come out with a newer, like midi size palette. But this is like the second to most recent. But this is the bronze palette. It's so beautiful. And I'm sure you guys have seen this before, but this formula, and it goes for all of her eyeshadow palette formulas. It's so good. Her shimmer shades just really reflect like no other. And her matte shades are really, really beautiful and they blend so easily. A lot of people actually don't care for her like cream to matte, like powder or cream to powder finishes. I personally really love those because I feel like it makes the palette a little bit more beginner friendly. And it also, like for instance, I believe this shade in the palette, Deep Dive, is a cream to powder. So it looks very dark in the pan. But whenever you apply it, because it's that cream to powder formula, it doesn't go on as like pigmented. So you have some time to work with it and build it up. So I'm definitely, loving the Natasha Denona formula. I'm so happy that I have, some palettes from her. And I think, like I said, if you're wanting to splurge, save up, or ask, for a gift, definitely recommends the Natasha Denona formula. That is my underrated, overrated video. I hope you guys enjoyed. This was fun for me just to kind of go through my collection. I love videos that encourage me to go through my collection. I think it's really fun just to remind myself what I have and what I want to use next and so forth. So if you did enjoy today's video, please do give it a thumbs up. And I really hope that you will subscribe to my channel because I would love to have you here as a part of my channel. And comment down below what your thoughts are on these palettes, on these brands, on these formulas. And comment down below also what your favorite, palettes, brands, and formulas are. So I would love to hear from you guys, and I will go ahead and see you guys in my next video. Bye!